Alright guys, TacticalRab again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. It's finally the week of the Call of Duty World Championship. The Toronto tournament concludes last night, and with two teams playing in it from the Pro League, we thought maybe they would win, but no, nowhere near winning. Rocket or the Los Angeles Guerrillas Gento getting clowned by the community as a result of what's happened over the last couple of days, maybe explaining to some degree why some of the other teams that didn't make champs elected not to compete in this tournament. Big drama as a result last night in terms of what this should mean. These amateurs getting a one-up on the pros on this occasion. Yes, there may well be other reasons and factors behind this circumstance, given, the Challengers World Championship is just around the corner, but nonetheless, big implications for the state of the CDL in general, what this means for the future, and maybe some changes these teams need to look for in the very near future as well. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Last night was a big night in esports, really, because it was the CS Major Final, the Valorant Championship was on as well, and it was an interesting moment because the COD scene has really got into this over the last few days, and I'm sure that many of you guys have been on board with this as well, because, Zoomer, the OpTic guys, they were doing watch parties for the Counter-Strike Major, and it was a phenomenal final. It was just a great story to see the Mongols and Vitality play in this way. And look, we're not going to talk about the Major Final and all the, because I followed Counter-Strike very heavily a few years ago, like 2018, 2019, like I was really into CS, and I followed it kind of pretty closely until roughly 2022, and I know that people have asked me over time, like, oh, you should do a channel about Counter-Strike, and look, I could, I just don't follow closely enough to do a good job of it at the moment, and it's so global that I think it makes it more challenging as well, but there is so much happening all of the time. That is the one thing that CS does have going for it, and I think that lots of the COD scene has seen what has happened in COD over the last few weeks, and have said, damn, this scene is dead, right? Like, champs is this week and nothing's happened in 4 weeks, whereas when we were back in Dallas for DreamHack, there was IEM Dallas going on, a Counter-Strike tournament right there, and then a couple of weeks later, the Major begins, and it's just concluded yesterday to 2 million peak viewers or whatever it was around the world last night, right? Crazy story, and those numbers probably don't really do the impact of this justice. Hex is talking about one of the players here. I mean, these were the scenes in Mongolia yesterday, and this was just one of the live watch parties that was happening, because, the Mongols team made the final, and COD's never gonna get to this level, and that's okay, right? But I think the kind of conclusion that many in the COD scene have drawn over the last couple of days is that this is the type of thing that is possible in esports, right? Like, Justin was there yesterday, just looking at the crowd, and we saw some of the impact of this over the last couple of days as well. This is the type of thing that esports it's possible to achieve, and as Parasite says, these guys are fans of the game. At the end of the day, the COD scene is not built on fans of the game itself. It is to some degree. I loved COD back in the day. Is it the same game as it used to be? No. It's built on the personalities of the scene. If it wasn't for the personalities in COD, the scene wouldn't really be anywhere. And that's true to some degree in Counter-Strike as well, but they have the advantage of having a great game. And COD's never going to be Counter-Strike. It is what it is, and that's okay. I think the point that, many would try and make is that, look, if Counter-Strike is the absolute S+ tier of where esports can be, then, COD shouldn't be happy with being way down the pecking order, right? We can at least try some of the things that CS has done to succeed. And it is frustrating to look at what CS has and has had for years, and look, the circuit over there works in a very different way. This tournament was a blast, this was run by Blast. There's other event, let's say, organizers, right? PGL, obviously you've got ESL FaZe Group, now owned by the Savvy Gaming Group in Saudi, right? So, there's a few interesting components in play, but it's very evident that they run an open circuit format. There's lots happening all the time. There's a few different circuits in play, and everything pretty much works. And it means there's loads of Counter-Strike all of the time. And Valve, who make the game in, the Activision, as it were, Microsoft, of the Call of Duty side, yeah, they put up the prize pools for the World Championship, effectively the majors, right, and stuff like this, as they do in COD, but they also make a hell of a lot of money out of it, because they've got the whole stickers market and the skins industry and all of those elements that make Valve a hell of a load of money off the esports product. But think of the buzz that this major created over the last few days. You've got phantom scenes that don't even watch Counter-Strike starting to watch CS and get into it and becoming fans of the scene, and will probably go on to watch more CS. And I don't know, when the major happens, there's so much excitement around CS. I've not followed CS closely for the last couple of years, but every time there's a major, I end up playing a bit more CS, right? Like, I end up getting the coin and trying to do the pick'ems, like this type of stuff, almost always. And I don't know if I myself playing like more CS as a result after the tournament because of all the buzz that it generates. And I think that's also true in COD to some extent. You know, Champs is on and maybe you want to hop on and play COD. Okay, fair enough. But the energy that this tournament and these stories, especially with Vitality, like obviously winning everything over the last few months and crowning it off last night, create so much energy around the game that it's like a universal positive for Counter-Strike. So even if Valve didn't make a hell of a load of money off the way that they've set up the structure around the CS majors, it would still be beneficial for the game. And that's kind of what frustrates me about the way that, you know, COD has no budget, has no seemingly interest from Activision or Microsoft to make it better. I think that we will probably move to some, I mean, look at this, IEM, ESL, Blast, right? And okay, IEM and ESL, I think they're basically run by the same thing, but still, you've got these Blast tournaments, you've got PGL tournaments as well. You know, there's all sorts of stuff going on over the last few months. I mean, this is 7 championships, and they're not all like, you know, major events, but 7 championships they've won since February, right? We're February to June, and Vitality have taken first place at 7 events. This is the amount of stuff that's going on in CS, and if we could get anywhere close to that in COD, I think it'd be massive for the scene. I'm hoping that COD will take some steps in the right direction over the next couple of years, but it's just been like, I love CS. I think it's the best game. And it's been cool to see people in COD really get into it over the last few days, but also probably learn to recognize that, yeah, like we're a very, very long way away indeed from where we would like to be. Speaking of COD, there was a tournament this weekend. It wasn't quite the major, but there was a tournament that concluded last night, going into next weekend's COD Champ. So we'll see how it compares, right? I mean, obviously, we've just had the Valorant Masters in Toronto conclude last night. We've just had the CS Major in Austin conclude last night. This weekend is the COD Champs, right? So we'll see the kind of levels we're talking about here when it comes to this upcoming tournament. But yeah, Rocker, they bombed out of this Toronto tournament. Yesterday, we obviously talked about Kenny and the boys losing to 5 Fears, and then they simply refused to play or something. I don't even know. There's still no explanation for why they forfeited their series against the Stallions, but they decided to. With respect to Los Angeles Grillas Gentlemate, whatever they're called, they did at least play out the tournament. We'll get to that in a second. And yeah, it was a great tourney for the guys to put on, honestly, and the grand finals was mega. I know that it was maybe in some sense unfortunate for Toronto because they ran the tournament here while the CS Major was on, right? Like, there was other mega days in esports, and it's like, okay, look, am I going to tune in to watch a couple of amateur teams play grand finals of this, or am I going to tune in to watch, you know, one of the biggest tournaments of the esports year in the CS Major? You know, it's a bit of a question mark, right? But you know what I'm saying anyway. I think they did a great job putting this on. I hope we can see more of these, and I hope that at least there was some interest and buzz around this AMD tournament. And I do also hope that in future, the more pro teams play. Now, I don't know if that will be the conclusion the pro teams take, because you look at this tournament in hindsight, you know, has it been beneficial for Rocker? Has it been beneficial for Gentlemate? No. You know, they lost, right? And it wasn't looking good. And as a result, their players are under a bit more pressure. Not substantially so. They're still going to go to, you know, the Esports World Cup. But this was meant to be an opportunity to get some practice in against some well-practiced amateur teams going into champs. And I think they've pretty much proven that the gap between the bottom pro teams and the top amateurs is either not really existing much at all, or is in reverse, right, in some regard. So it's not obviously worked out, as it were, for the pros, and it's kind of a frustrating world we live in where the pros may in future decide. It seems like Falcons did this, or maybe there was something else going on, and Cloud9 maybe did this, to say, you know what, we're never going to play at it because it's just going to tank our stock. What's the point? Which is kind of like a sad world that we live in, where the pro players are like, yeah, you know, do I want to play at a $10,000 prize pool tournament, or will it hurt my stock and that's going to cost me more money in the long term? Like, it's a pretty sad world we live in where that's the case. But if I was in their position, I do get it, right? At the end of the day, you know, there's lots of these guys trying to keep their nice cushy job where they get to play COD for 6 months a year and don't even have to play that much COD because they turn up to the ladder, they get bopped out on the Thursday and drink for the rest of the weekend. So, no, I don't know if that's actually what the teams do. You know what I'm saying anyway. Like, it's, if you're on one of these weaker teams in the league that are never going to win, you know, you get paid a decent salary to just play COD with your boys and get slapped around every week by the top teams. Like, it's, you know, it could be worse, couldn't it? So it's understandable why some of these players, they want to keep their job in the league. And, you know, like FeLo and obviously the Gentlemates guys would play in last night. We saw the same for Kismet. None of these guys really tweeted after the fact, like, yeah, we lost, it was sad, you know, sad to the fans. It's because as far as they're concerned, it wasn't really a big deal. And maybe it's not really a big deal. At the end of the day, these pro teams have been in Cancun for a month. Which, again, is like, I don't know if they really have been, but the point is they've not been grinding, have they? Let's be honest. Have they really been putting in a shift, these pro teams that didn't make champs? No. And I get it, right? The World Cup's a while away, but equally it's maybe not the best look for the pros, you know, for these pro teams to not really be doing all that much, given, you know, the champs is right here, World Cup's coming up, like, is it really time to go on holiday and take a break when you've just got slapped around all season? Probably not, but, you know, I don't know. That's just my perspective on it. Omid Brooklyn, they played LAG last night when they dropped down to the losers bracket after losing to Notorious, and yeah, they got beaten 3-1 in this series. Went down 2-1, went to a rewind hardpoint, lost this one as well. Kiz and Felony with a pretty rough final map of the series, and yeah, these were the overall numbers on the series. The Omid Brooklyn team advanced. They didn't win the tournament, Omid Brooklyn. We'll get to who did in a second, but it was very competitive, to be fair, this entire tournament. FeLo with a 0.77, Kismet with a 0.94, Lunarz, Johnny at least, you know, showed some signs of life, I guess. But yeah, Protocol 3-2, dealership with 6-5, close series, obviously, but Gentlemates go down, and they bomb out of the tournament in the end, I think, top 4. Rocker bombed out top 12, as we know, after forfeiting their final series. Then, the team that beat LAG went on to play 5-Fee as White. They lost this one in a Game 5 round 11. So this was a bag of dollar, right, to see. I mean, these results were crazy. There were so many close maps in here. But 5-Fee as White, they won both hardpoints and the final search. That's aBeZy, Fire, and Hixie. They get the win here. ProLoots boys go down. And then the grand finals was like an absolutely insane series. Now, this is Notorious, so basically the European guys, right? Afro, Eric Boom, F. Dot, and Rafi. And, you know, this was actually the first time they played in the winners finals. And then we'll see the grand finals here in a second. But, yeah, Afro this series had a 1.36, F. Dot with a 1.2, Eric Boom with a 1.1. So, yeah, Afro, like, I'm not shocked, but I am very sad that he didn't get picked up this year, because it was very evident from back in, like, I don't know, I want to say March, really, time, even February, March, that Afro is like really locked this year, and is also like insane at this game. Like, there was talk, let's not forget, when Surge signed Neptune, that they were also looking at Afro. Now, there were some rumors that maybe they weren't, but that was maybe the chance. And yeah, did they make a mistake signing Neptune? Absolutely not. But I do think that Afro could have made similar impact to another team. The issue is visas and other factors. It's just kind of unfortunate how it's worked out, because Afro's so good at this game. Like, he's genuinely so good, and hopefully Notorious do well enough at Challengers Champs that they can qualify for the World Cup, and we get to actually see that out there in Riyadh. I think that'd be really good, because his team, of course, after winning this one, they rematched those guys in the finals, and they won the finals as well. They won the finals, by the way, in remarkable fashion. Afro didn't have as good of a series here, but he still had 135 kills, and it was actually Abe who had a 1.3 in the grand finals, but instead Notorious beat them in 3 round 11s. Like, absolutely insane. So they played a Protocol round 11, which they won. They played a Hacienda round 11, which they won. They won the Skyline 252-43, and then they won the red card game 7 6-5 as well. So yeah, mega result. At the end of the day, this very much could have gone either way, and yeah, the bulk of the prize pool goes to Afro's team going into the World Championship. So in many respects, really exciting tournament for some of the players that are upcoming, and, you know, certainly the likes of Abe right on the other side here with a 1.3 in the grand finals, 168 kills in grand finals, like, you know, absolutely ridiculous, right? So, you know, these were some seriously high scoring, high kill games, and yeah, in the end, it was Team Notorious that came out on top. It creates some great storylines, because of course plenty of those teams are going to be there at Challenger Champs, and also puts a lot of pressure on some of the pro teams, because, you know, in an ideal world, certainly for the pro teams that we've mentioned today, they will turn up to the World Championship, but they won't be there. But after the World Championship, no changes will be made, and they will turn up to the World Cup with the same roster. That is the intention, I imagine, of the players. But the organisation may have other ideas after Champs, or certainly after Challenger Champs. They may be like, okay, you know, some of those guys that did well, we might want to think about a change before the World Cup. So it's something to think about anyway, that maybe, as unfortunate as it is, Falcons and Cloud9 were pretty smart not playing this thing. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.